his drink, though, and they're really good. That's
so
the problem.
He's saying they just like to promote their own
Yeah,
stuff.
everybody else will promote them, and then they eventually stop promoting it because their product is shit. Yeah.
So, yeah, I officially left the old role, left the old company.
Are you excited? Or are you scared?
Both.
Same time.
I feel like I'm supposed to be more excited than I am about, taking some next steps for myself. I know on paper, pros and the cons, it was the right move to make.
Right.
So, it's just a matter of leaving before it's technically done in that aspect of wanting to see it all the way through there, having built relationships with guys on the site that I worked with every day. But either way, all of that would be changing, over the course of the next few months anyways.
Yeah, with that with the other company.
Yeah.
What was your last day like?
Laid back. I still got a lot done, but it was more so just making sure everybody had what they needed, and then kind of just making the rounds to say my goodbyes to everybody. And it was, like I said, it was bittersweet. So
most of us don't have the opportunity. I know, and I know he's not your boss, but most of us don't have like the opportunity when we leave to be working with the person who, your leader or whatever.
The last day. No, I mean, that's what he was. I think, I think he was stretched thin himself.
100%.
And just unable to do what was probably needed for me or what I want. I'm part of the reason, big part of the reason I'm moving on is so that I can work with a different style of leadership so that I can continue to grow while I'm in that role. So,
yeah, that kind of gets lost, when we're so frustrated and so angry at, working for a company that doesn't, quote, appreciate us.
Yeah.
I think we have a huge tendency to just be like, they are purposely fucking me right now for everything.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of your discussions, it definitely seemed that way.
Yeah.
But I think I heard you say it the other day on your last day when you called me. And yeah, you had said like, I think, well, bleep is just stretched thin.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that, you had said a lot of everything might have been a part of that. And then obviously he didn't even like the changes that are coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. He didn't, so, I don't think he appreciated some of the stuff that's going on either.
Yeah.
But either way, that stuff removed the things that I've seen go on in the style of leadership.
Yeah.
For whatever the case.
I mean, even if you're stretched thin, that shouldn't push into your leadership. It's poor leadership, and it's you have all the ability to learn how to be a good leader. There's tons of shit out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a big part of that is just, listening to the guys that are, responsible for the work and having more consideration for what they think, the solutions might be, and spending enough time reading leadership books and
yeah, but when you don't even
being a leader, I'm a leader out there.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to lead people, and then also looking at the differences between what I'm getting versus what I put out. And it's like, so, I mean, he was stretched thin, and then, I will say the first thing that he said when he got out on that last day was, we gave you a 30% raise last year. And I had to laugh because it's like, that may very well be true. But number one, obviously I earned it and deserved it.
Wasn't that 30% with, see, and I assume he was telling you that because they probably tried to figure for a way to get you to stay.
Probably.
They had, because otherwise he wouldn't have looked at numbers unless that was the case. But that also doesn't account for, like your bonus money was in that too, right?
Yeah, so there was a bonus attached. That's
right. That's
a
nothing.
one-time
like
thing.
if you weren't going to get that bonus next year, then that doesn't mean you gave me a 30% increase. It means I earned like probably 20% of that.
Well, and I
mean, I don't know how much your increase was.
Look, so getting out into the field to like field interviews and that whole process kind of gave me perspective into my market value in the industry. And after doing that, I'm like, well, shit, they should have been paying me this since the get-go.
Well,
you
and
know.
that, yeah. I
So I
mean, you,
spend 2 years working at getting to that point that I should have probably been at the whole time, and telling me that that was like some sort of favor to me,
yeah,
knowing that I can go right out and get more is, you know,
yeah.
kind of just shows the lack
I mean,
of
I know that
diligence to
yeah,
the
yeah.
matter.
I know that like we all have value for ourselves, and we
Mhm.
all try to put like a numeric, we try to put that into like a system where I'm like, I am this much an hour,
Mhm.
or I am, my time for the year is going to be worth this much.
Yep.
Um, I based on like other jobs,
Mhm.
right? Like based on labor jobs and all these other hardworking jobs that you haven't gotten like the amount of money that you want,
Mhm.
right? Ever. Well, you make $20 an hour mowing lawns.
Yeah.
That's what you do. That's it.
This is the first place that's actually offered me, you know, my discussion with them was, in the interview process was, I feel like I'm, in any type of role coming into it with a new company, I feel like there's always that carrot that gets dangled. And, um, if you're willing to come in and, prove yourself, then you'll get what it's worth.
Yeah.
And, so I explained to him it'd be really nice to get what it's worth up front and actually just be able to live to that standard and make that the right, come into it with the same, um, where we're both at the same level,
Right.
needing to prove ourselves,
Is there, okay, at least for me, I have a bit of like, I have a bit of thought when that like when I argue for myself,
Mhm.
like to get more, I
Mhm.
always have that background thought where it's like, I don't really, I'm definitely not qualified to earn
Mhm.
this based off of this job.
Yeah.
Like we all have value, like I said, and you might find value if you were able to do exactly what you love, and all of the customers came in to doing exactly what you love.
Mhm.
Like your value is exponential.
Mhm.
It's infinite, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to a job that we don't know what we're doing, like there's, I mean, doing contracting and stuff, there's plenty of times where I tell a customer, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It'll cost you this much.
Mhm.
I look up like, the average of what it would cost, and I add 20%, and then another 10% in case I don't know what the fuck I'm doing when I get into it. So it kind of folds over.
Mhm.
And if they approve it, that's great. How is that for you? Do you feel as if,
So,
you're a little,
all
I
right.
know, I know that when we're talking about this, I know based off of your actions up at this other site, I know that, when we got through it, I know that you're somebody who sticks to your word, and you want to, you definitely improved the entire system that was going on up there. So I know for a fact you getting this other job. It's not like that you aren't completely qualified.
Mhm.
But what is it to kind of take a step further and be like, hey, don't dangle that carrot.
So,
Trust me. But in the back of your mind, you're like,
so,
I don't know.
so if I
I
was
might burn
to,
this whole place down.
yeah, I mean, if I was to give you a high level perspective on how how this whole process has gone for me, um, in terms of my inner dialogue about it, this is not the first role in which there could be an argument made that I am not quite qualified for the position,
Yeah.
right? So that's going back on it. I don't know that there's ever been a role that I have been completely qualified for
Yeah.
because
Especially
anything,
when switching careers and
yeah.
stuff.
I mean, when you're starting something, no matter where you're at, you have to go through a training process to learn their systems, and whatever it may be, it could be retail to
Yeah,
construction.
100%.
So I think there's an element where it's about your capability to be trainable and understand the common sense of that role. And so for myself, I've kind of developed a system where um, I'm always looking at what could make me better. So when I'm looking for an opportunity, when I want to, leave a place, or I know that I'm unhappy somewhere, I start looking for what the next step would be. And that's what I'm trying to achieve through the process of my my daily grind, in whatever the role is,
Sure.
that I'm currently working. So it's a little awkward, when I feel going into it that there's stuff that I know I don't necessarily know,
Mhm.
but I am presenting as capable of being responsible for. And so there's, for myself, like a window of time, I guess, in the beginning, where I'm going to be asking a lot of questions, doing a lot of studying, working really hard to understand the areas that I don't know so that I can, pull that in with the things that I do. And, so I would say, generally speaking, when I have gone into a new role that is, a little bit, um, you know, that I'm a little underqualified for, I guess I would say, when I start. Generally speaking, by the time that training period is done, I've learned enough about it, um, to be capable of, you know, handling the responsibilities. And then from there, it's a matter of just building on that and trying to make it better. So,
So when you first go in, finding a system is important.
mhm,
That's what I found.
yep.
I've when you were talking about like making the next steps to improve,
Mhm,
like what's going to be good for you, and making the decision to switch to a different job too.
mhm,
Also, when you're when you do make the transition over, my goal is always to find like not just what'll help me, but find whatever puzzle pieces have been missing
mhm.
that this job,
Yeah.
doesn't have.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been very perceptive of that. In any role that I've had, I'm always looking for the efficiencies and
Mm-hmm.
how people are doing things to make things smoother and easier, more efficient, and so when I'm observing, when I first start anywhere, I observe, how people are interacting, what systems and processes they have and they use, and I try to figure out how, um, where any pinch points are, where any issues are in that, communication of information. And if there's a way that I can eliminate that or own that, problem, then it usually gives me an understanding of the things that I don't know when I'm going into it, and it also sets me up to be a positive team player. I'm helping out, making things easier for guys, and that ties into the leadership aspect that, as a leader, or manager of other people, you want to be removing the obstacles for the people that are out there doing the work. And so over the years, I've just made that my focus, how to get rid of the problems. And it's usually making everybody happy, and, um, you just keep adding to it and
So
keep
when
working your
so
way up.
so making a change, was is obviously hard, and well, we
Yes,
can
I
talk
was not
about
always like that.
right, and
And I still slip often where, I get too comfortable and I
mhm.
get laid back. And I mean, I do what I do well, uh, but I definitely when I'm getting relaxed and complacent, when I get too comfortable, I definitely am not continuing to push myself to learn and grow. And
I
so,
I think a lot of us slip in and out of that
mhm,
though. I, I like being so self aware. Uh, I seem like I tend to, even if I don't slip out of it, I know I'm in it.
mhm,
And I think, with what I have going on, a big challenge is once I realize that I am slipping into that complacency,
mhm,
or I've been there for a while,
mhm,
I it's the negative talk from there that goes, you should be doing something about this.
mhm,
Oh, the day's over because you had a busy day. You didn't do anything about that. Well, you're
yeah,
a piece of shit. And then you
yep,
wake up the next morning, you're like, you need to do something about this. And so, like, initially jumping in to make that change of complacency
mhm,
and unhappiness, is really hard.
yeah,
But another thing is when we're talking about making the change and then making, or looking for systems, or when you first get in,
mhm,
that jump from change, like afterwards, you have to create some kind of change. You have to have some kind of philosophy for yourself to follow.
mhm,
There has to be some kind of goalpost. Otherwise, you end up in this airless, you know, uh, box where you're looking around trying to find a place to go after you've made that change.
Yeah, and I mean, there's other elements that affect that, right? You know, like our egos and our own uh, mental state in whatever's going on affect those things. So you might not even, a lot of people don't realize that they're in it, you know, until some sort of consequence or negative thing happens that kind of shakes it, shakes it out of them. And the way that I gauge what I do, and an easy way for me to know if I'm, on my, on my stuff, or if I'm slipping a little bit or getting comfortable, is just looking at like the normal routine that I've built up for myself over the years through like different experiences and
Right.
working on myself. I have a very like specific morning routine where I get up and I make my coffee, let my dogs out, I read and I meditate, and then I do a workout. And I get up early so I can usually, get that done in a couple of hours before I have to, get the house moving.
Yeah.
And so when it doesn't take long, a week usually, and I'm like, oh, well, I haven't done my workout, or I haven't sat and meditated. And even if I can't meditate, just sitting quietly, like when have I done that, And
I know talking to you too, that'll be the first thing when I notice some kind of, inflection in your voice and you're a little bit stressed, or you're telling me that, you're a little bit stressed. The very first thing you say is, I'm off my routine.
Mhm.
And, routine is a huge, like, I mean, that's a huge benefit to controlling any kind of negative thing in your life. If you can
Mhm.
find little things that break apart the day, that you have going on every day, it's again there. It's those goalposts, but you also know that those are things that you enjoy, and they're things that help you.
Yeah, and it's, everything. So we've talked, and I'm sure we'll talk again, about some of the deeper aspects of life. And I think in my journey of self awareness, I've seen that, like, for myself, um, keeping track of and maintaining those healthy habits is something that I have to do.
It's detrimental.
Yeah. If
Yeah.
if you're not taking care of, like, I have to take care of myself in order to be able to be productive for anybody else. And there's a duality to everything. That's something that
Oh,
I've learned
yeah.
in
It's
like the
Jocko's
spiritual side of it.
dichotomy,
Yeah, there's
making the word famous.
yeah, I mean, for me, learning about spirituality and like the ego and the human psyche and everything, there's a duality to everything. And the thing that I need to do is the thing that is going to make me feel better, but it's also the thing that I'm avoiding or not feeling like doing. If I don't have energy, I don't feel like working out. Well, starting to work out, like, I always feel good after I do a couple sets of anything. And if I do it for a few days, I have more energy, and it's like less of a problem to get those, you know, to get off the couch or get going in the morning to do those things.
Yeah.
And so it's always like the key to the thing that's holding you back is the thing that you're kind of
Yeah.
avoiding doing. So,
Um, I'm going back to like my brain keeps wondering, like we're talking about the end steps, right? Like
mhm,
both of you, both me and you, know that like routine works,
mhm,
but there was a point in time where we had no idea, that a routine would fix us.
mhm,
When do you think? Because mine was mine wasn't gradual. Mine, I was told by my psychiatrist and therapist, you need to create a routine. But when do you think that, like, how far back do you think it was that you started doing those routinely items on that list
so
that you,
when I first built a routine up, it was after I had cancer. I was 24, I think. Got testicular cancer, and in those moments of evaluating my life and where it was at, trying to face the potential end of my life and everything about that.
did
That's
you
when I
have your
initially,
first did you have your first kid at that time too?
yeah,
Like right
yeah,
around there?
yeah. He was
Or
like a
right,
year and a
yeah.
half, two.
Yeah, so you also we've talked before about legacy,
Yeah.
and so that must have been a
Yeah, so that, I mean,
big
that tied
challenge.
into it. Wanting to be healthy. That was more of a physical routine, though. I think the thing that really really got me into it as in terms of like making sure that I'm okay mentally and physically was later on after my second kid, during the time of that separation with his mom. It really, really crushed me. I didn't have a dad growing up, so I always wanted to be a dad and be a good dad. And so the feeling of, my family falling apart kind of thing and all of that really, rocked me at the time. And, not to get into the weeds on it, but during that time, I really did not take care of myself. I was checked out. I was in a fog. I was not present and I was miserable. So after a few months of living, just in misery, I started reading a little more, because I was desperate. Like something had to change.
Yeah.
And because of my kids, I can't just, give up. That's my reason for, I think everybody should have a reason to want to motivate themselves and be better. And mine is to, be a good dad and good example for my kids. So around that time, I wasn't taking care of myself, wasn't eating, sleeping, and it's all tied together. If your blood's not flowing, you're probably not getting tired. You're not getting hungry. And it was just this state of just being stagnant. And so through desperation and reading enough of things that essentially pointed out you need to be taking care of yourself and how everything worked, and correlated mentally and physically, it's like, okay, I got to do something. So at that point in time, I really like, I have to do something and started, lifting and
what made
eating.
what made you start reading? Like, did you read a lot when you were a kid?
No,
No.
I was never a big reader, never cared about it.
Because I'm actually realizing this as I'm sitting here talking to you. The reason that like when I first got into like self-help and stuff, I obviously, being a normal kid, I don't know if I was normal. Being a kid, I went through, probably up to like middle school and then into high school. And I don't know if I even read anything I wasn't required to read for the curriculum.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but realizing this now, my mom used to have us read all the time. So even if it was just like, fiction books too, like we had, I had like every single one of those Michigan Chiller books. And I just remember like really enjoying reading. My mom, like she made sure when, the Harry Potter stuff came out, we were reading those. As soon as they came out, my mom ran and got books.
Yeah, you young fella.
Yeah, she came and I mean, not all of them. I'm talking about like the first one.
Yeah, I was
young.
Yeah, I wasn't into reading when I was growing up, and at that time, I think I was like in high school,
right, further out
high
of
school,
reading,
and
right.
I was not.
So I'm
not worried about reading.
I'm just realizing like because I did the same thing. I mean, not the same thing, but I went to the gym first, and I honestly was like, I was watching, how to do workouts. I was watching all that stuff. And some of them were from these really dumb seeming people. And I was like, man, these people are not very smart. I kind of want to just get into it. And so like reading again, I started reading like fitness books and how to do certain workouts. And the reason that like, this is going to work this muscle, all the pictures and stuff. And then I, started listening to podcasts and then eventually got into, it was probably Jocko's, Extreme Ownership is that one. And I started off with that. And then that just like fell from there, right? Like I was listening to a lot of Jocko, a lot of Rogan, and then I was hearing like people who were coming on promoting their books. And I just kept going from there into self-help. So that's a huge part of my routine. Is the reading. And I think that a lot of people should.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
begin on the smallest, easiest books in the entire world.
Yeah. I probably sound like a nutcase, right? Because I think about all the people I've given books to, right? Since I've gotten into that type of routine and, you see that people are going through something and you're like, I've got a book for that.
But it's funny too, because I know for a fact that I've given books and they just sit and collect
Yeah,
dust. I'll go over to their
absolutely.
house. Not that Nate's house is close enough. He's giving me a desk chair right now
Mhm.
because there's a David Goggins book sitting right by his door.
Mhm.
So when people come in, they think he reads. But eventually I know eventually he'll read
read
it.
it.
So, but and it's only because I'm here to continuously give him shit.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, so I would say, for me, I got into the physical aspect of things, of that routine for myself, and then I fell off of it. I was still not happy, even though I was in really great shape.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the time, I was benching like 315 or something. Like, I was, for a little guy, I was
Cool story, bro.
pretty big.
315, huh?
Pictures or it didn't happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
305.
He had
whatever.
to throw the number in there though,
Yeah.
didn't he?
Well,
I don't
it's
think your
for
mic's on, by the way.
somebody that at the time
315.
Oh, there we go.
was very, I'm not a big dude. So
No, I know.
for me hitting,
I'm just messing with you.
the 300 club, it was a big deal. And but
Like,
at
for
that
sure.
time, at that time, that's what that was though.
Yeah.
I was trying to be healthy and be in shape and take care of myself.
I always thought that was the answer, right?
Right.
Like I was
But-
always getting that. It's
Yeah, I'm
like,
still
oh
not
no, I just
happy.
got to be healthy.
There's
No.
getting carried away with it.
Yeah.
Too,
So
though.
so for myself, I realized that I was still unhappy, even though I was in shape and could meet people, whatever. I still lacked a lot of confidence. Like I'm not. I'm outgoing with the people I'm comfortable with.
Mhm.
I'm not.
Not with people you're not.
Yeah, I'm not outgoing
get
when it comes
that.
to that. So, I still found myself repeating patterns that were unhealthy and not good for me, mainly seeking validation from women. And like that's how I gauged myself and if I was okay, if I was on the right track, if I was worthy of anything, was whether or not I had a girlfriend and how that relationship was.
Yeah.
And
How'd that pan out?
not well.
No,
No.
Oh.
I can say
just another vice.
yeah. I mean, yeah, and so like
But I understand that too because you're also, you're still like. The shitty part is, what you wanted for a family and stuff goes away, when all that happened. And so you're kind
Yeah,
of still
I mean-
looking for it, but you're also not
Yeah.
because I'm guessing that you're not picking the right.
right. I mean, we're gonna
people
have
for
to
that.
have a different episode to
Yeah,
unpack
yeah.
my relationship.
Don't worry. You might have to
lessons.
have like a 12-hour
We'll have
movie for me.
We'll do an
Yeah.
episode for relationship lessons.
Yeah.
And I'll get into.
And by the way, we
weeds
have
on
none.
Yeah.
We
Fuck.
probably have no lessons.
No, I mean, there's some definite lessons I've gotten from
Yeah,
it.
I know.
Um,
I'm just
yeah. Again, through like desperation, through being miserable, I started reading about different aspects of things. A couple self-improvement books. I read spiritual books, and the correlation in all this reading that I was doing was that I affect the world around me, like regardless of if I take action or don't take an action. If you do something what you consider right or wrong, it doesn't matter. You're still affecting the world around you no matter what. So I built up a little bit of self-esteem, I think, or at least understanding of what self-esteem really is. And I think there's a misconception, in life about self-esteem versus like what we're taught and what we think it is versus what it really is and what makes up your self-esteem.
what do you think self-esteem is?
I'm
You could define it right.
probably going to get it wrong, but essentially, self-esteem, everybody thinks about it in terms of how you feel about yourself. And behind that, though, is your self-efficacy. So the way that you feel like you affect the world around you. And I think a lot of people feel like they don't have self-esteem because they're not getting the results that they want in life and not feeling the way that they want about themselves, forgetting that or not realizing that they actually do affect the people and the world around them far more than they realize, whether it's inaction or, taking action. It doesn't make a difference. You're still affecting the people and the things around you. And so that's one part. And then the second part is how well you perceive, the actions that you're taking in life, like where you gauge those things in terms of the value that you place on things in life. So when you put it all together, if you're taking positive actions in your life or taking steps in your life and they are affecting the world around you, you're going to get good results. You're going to feel good about yourself, And I think people get hung up on if they're going through a moment where they're feeling down about themselves or caught in the struggle, with mental health of feeling like life sucks, it's really hard to remember that everything I'm doing, including just sitting here thinking about it, is affecting the world around me. And at some point, I think people get to a point where whether they're miserable and feel like there's no other choice, or they're motivated by something that they read or something that's said to them in some way, shape, or form, if people get going on that path to action, that's when they generally start feeling better about themselves. So I kind of learned all of that as I was just miserable and needed to do something. And there were a couple of short books that I read that took me down a path of wanting to read, because every time I read a new book, it peeled back another, layer of the onion. And so like I enjoy it. A lot of people, I think, try to avoid it until you start to do it. Like I know you can relate to that. After you read a little bit of material that made you think about how the world is and how people work, and then it was like, oh, well, I can apply this to myself. And the more that you do that, the more you're like, oh, like this is actually kind of cool.
This episode is brought to you by Construction Coffee Co. Go to constructioncoffeeco.com, a company that knows exactly what kind of fuel you need when the day starts too early and ends too late. They're not just slapping a label on cheap beans. This stuff is roasted with real grit, made for people who move, build, and stay busy. You've got blends like Crack of Dawn to kickstart the day, Sparky's Nightmare for the ones who live in chaos, and King of the Castle for anyone who runs the site or just thinks they do. And it's not just coffee. They've got gear too. Mugs, tees, stickers, hats. Tough enough for the job site, clean enough to wear on your day off. More blends are on the way, and they're just getting started. So if you want to support a crew that actually gives a damn about what they're making, check out constructioncoffeeco.com. Construction Coffee Co. Clock in, drink up, shut up.
Cass & Co. Upscale Thrift is redefining resale. Think timeless fashion, luxury brands, and curated pieces, all at prices that let you stay stylish without the splurge. Whether you're hunting for vintage classics or this season's designer staples, we'll make high-end accessible. Dress like you own the runway for a fraction of the price.
I was thinking about what you were saying about self-esteem. I think a lot of I keep wanting to say I think a lot of people, but when I say that, it's me, right? Like
Yeah.
I've had poor self-esteem. I still have poor self-esteem. I think there's a benefit a little bit because you in order to know that you don't have great self-esteem, you have to be self-aware, right? So I think that people struggle with self-esteem because especially, if you want to take it to like being bad at a sport. If you're bad at a sport, some people just try to get better,
Mhm.
and they're not, self-aware of the fact that they're not very good right now.
Mhm.
Time is the healer of everything.
Mhm.
Like time will heal. It doesn't always fix it, but it heals it. And so taking the time to get better at something is obviously going to improve your self-esteem once you get better at it. And I think that a lot of people, me in general, need to realize that, if you're taking the necessary steps to push your boundaries and do the things that, like, if you want to be a part of something and it takes action to get there,
Mhm.
you just have to push through that, and your self-esteem will increase, tremendously.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, especially in today's world, because there's so much that is instant gratification that's tied into everything that we do. Um, Everything that I've learned, and that I think you've learned about any process of self-improvement or healing or any of that, it all takes time. None of it is an instant fix. It's really easy to affect the world around you in a negative way, right? Like a
Oh, it's the
split second
easiest.
you can say or do something that will totally rock the world around you. But anything positive, whether it's trying to start a new routine or build consistency with a person, if you're, trying to improve something like that in your life, it all takes time to, to sow the fruit, sort of thing.
Yep.
It takes time for the fruit on the tree to grow. So I think a lot of people get unmotivated along the way of getting to that goal that they know they could achieve. You know, it's just hard work.
That's I mean, and you want that.
Mhm.
As much as it doesn't feel like that, you want to have to earn it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The journey is is better or is just as good or if not better than the destination.
Mhm.
Because once you get to that destination, it still takes all those routines to keep you there.
Yeah,
It still
absolutely.
takes every decision to continue to move forward.
Yeah, it's a never-ending process.
Yeah.
You know, it's it, as you start going on any kind of path, I think of self-improvement, you realize that it's literally a 24-hour thing where you're always thinking about what you're thinking and you're always thinking about what you're doing and how it relates to the world around you, how it affects the world around you. And it's just a constant check all
Yeah.
the time of those things. And
And the beauty, I think the good thing about that is it's knowing. It's like it's kind of shedding light on that darkness. Like, when is this going to get better? It's not. I
Yeah.
mean, like every bit of circumstance that keeps popping up in your life, you can continue to blame. Like in reality, though, it's us as that person who needs to
Yeah.
fix it.
Yep.
Like everybody gets a different deck of cards.
Yeah, I mean, life is always changing. There's nothing is going to stay the same. So that means, you know, the things that you do to take action in your life have an effect. You know, hence the self-efficacy aspect of self-esteem. So you're taking an action as things are going on in your life, no matter what you're doing. So at some point, you know, you have to be self-aware enough to see how you affect yourself with the things that you're thinking or eating or doing or not doing, and how it affects the people around you. And it's a lot easier to improve, I think, than people realize when they're in it and in the weeds. You know, all it takes is any bit of improvement and building on it every day. That's
Takes-
really all it
Yeah,
takes.
yeah. I mean, you it takes one choice to take one step forward
Yep.
every single day, and that's it.
When I was miserable, it was literally walk around the block
Yeah.
and then read a page or two out of a book,
We're saying that though,
journal
like
a page.
yeah, we're
like,
saying though, we're saying that though, where it's like it sounds easy to us now because we pushed through that.
Yeah.
I know that I've been at the darkest points of my life where even like sleeping, like trying to get into bed or trying to get out of bed has been the hardest task of my life.
Absolutely.
But while improving that, you know, that feeling of being so overwhelmed that or not wanting to be alive, not wanting to be around,
Mhm.
pushing through that every single day, even for 1 second,
Yep.
just so you can stay here
Yep.
for one more second. Like that's all improvement. And
Yeah.
I think we go back and forth between seeing that, like, as you're improving, if you get 5 steps in, you go, oh wow, at least I'm not in bed. That's
Mhm.
a positive thought, right?
Mhm.
As you move through the as you move through each step, you know, say 5 is where you get that positive.
Mhm.
As you move through each step forward, like your thoughts almost are all negative.
Yeah.
It's still, I can't get out of bed, but then you realize that you had to
Yep.
get up and go, you know, take a piss.
Yep.
And then but then you're like, all I can do today is lay in bed and take a piss. Like the negative thoughts always come, but eventually that positive thought comes through where it's like, okay, I'm making some kind of progress. And if you have enough of those, if
Mhm.
you have, you know, out of 10 or 15 negative thoughts, you're going to have 2 or 3 positive thoughts.
Mhm.
The positive always outweighs the negative.
Yeah.
And I think
absolutely.
that it just takes, it just continuously takes that extra step every day in order to do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's very easy, like you said, to be in that continual loop of negative talk. And, you know, I had to get to a point where I realized, you know, like I realized I was really negative towards myself. And I had, you know, this inner critic in my mind, you know, that was always kind of holding me back. And,
Inner bitch.
yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
And so I when I was not doing well, I was trying to find something that would help, you know, felt like I needed anything, some sort of answer or whatever. And I learned about cognitive behavioral therapy and self-talk, and how, you know, it got me down the path of trying to understand the subconscious mind, and how um, the way that we speak to ourselves, where that comes from environmentally growing up, and then how it affects us, you know, as adults, and what we can do to change those things. And um, you know, I started reading about that, and then I saw a therapist, and my therapist, you know, really pointed out how negative my self-talk was. And I think that's what actually got me, um, you know, changing myself enough to realize how much I kept myself from the things that I wanted that I could have.
S- Have you ever heard of that? I'm blanking on exactly what it is. Nate, see if you can find this. It's like how negative, like they scientifically proved that negative thoughts have an effect on the world around you.
Mhm.
I forget exactly what that was. Whether it was like water. I swear it's like
there's
water.
a water study
Is that
they've
is that
done.
it?
There's a water study that they've done. There's where I know that the words that you speak over water create different vibrational
Yeah.
patterns, and so they've frozen water as different words are being spoken, and, you know, kind words or healthy
One
words.
wasn't
Um,
one taste like something
um,
with
well,
the
another one.
taste?
So there was another one that they did with water and rice, and um, the scientists put, you know, rice in 3 jars of water and then spoke words to it, you know, and the negative, it molded and got nasty. The
Maybe that was
kind
it.
words fermented the rice, and it was like a sweet smell. And um,
Yeah,
so,
maybe that's what it was.
I mean, there's been a bunch of studies that have gone on that have correlated, you know, the words that you speak. There's also, you know, studies on like worry and anxiety and things like that, and how they affect your entire body and
Physically.
organs, and, you know, all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I had that this last year by
Yeah.
being so stressed out
Yeah.
and so anxious and and I wasn't. It's not like my caffeine intake at that time was bad. I you know yeah, I mean, I was doing my best to take care of myself,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden it just
Yeah, man. Yeah, it'll
hit
take a
me.
toll, man. That's part of the reason I'm making changes, you
Yeah.
know, in my life, and why I try to keep on the routine. Because if I'm not doing all of those things mentally and physically that I know make me feel good and help me to show up, you know, ready to take on every day, it just compounds and it snowballs. And um, you know how it is. It's never fun pulling yourself out of the slump. So I try to stop digging.
No.
Anytime I realize I'm like digging a hole, I try to stop
Yeah.
and, you know, switch it up. So it can be hard to do, though, you know.
I know that the one of the most challenging things for me has been lately is years ago I was in the best shape that I was.
Mm,
I was mentally, I mean, it's funny, as you get older you're like, I was not mentally strong there,
mhm,
but I do feel like I was working towards getting better. And I know that the last 4 or 5 years I've done a lot that I've learned from.
mhm,
Um, but I think that the biggest challenge for me is, and it might be the same for other people, is when you were once great, you now aren't.
mhm.
And so you have to figure out a way to get back there if that's what you're choosing to do, but remind yourself that it again takes all the time
Yeah.
that you put into it. We forget.
Yeah.
We really do. Like I have an image in my head of how I looked, how I was
Mhm,
feeling, what I was thinking at
yeah.
the time, and it doesn't correlate. Like as I'm going to even to the gym,
Right.
you pick up the weights again,
Yeah.
and you're
I
like
mean,
but you look over at the weights that you were lifting, and you're
yeah.
like, God damn it,
Yeah.
and the negative thoughts just continue to roll
Yeah.
because you're like, I can't even lift that.
Yeah. Well, and for me, um, it's like when I've gone back in, when I get into this routine of, or not routine, when I'm getting back into the routine, um, I try and go lift like I did before. And
You hurt yourself.
because I have the mental fortitude that I do now, I'm
Exactly.
like, I've
Yeah,
got
I've
this.
got it.
And then,
Yep.
so it's almost like it's done a reverse where my body physically, I have to work it up, work up to it the same way that I used to have to do mentally. Whereas my mentality has improved over the years. So now I have the, what I feel like is the necessary mental capacity to take it on. And I wish I had that back then.
Yeah.
I feel like I would have been a lot more effective in life.
Yeah.
But
like to give an example, me and Cassidy went to the gym today,
Mhm.
and I won't tell the story right now, but I was in Colorado skateboarding. Like, it was, I hadn't skateboarded in probably 10 years, and
Mhm.
it's fucking cool out there. Well, Colorado is a little bit more hilly than here in Michigan.
Yeah.
So I'll tell the story later, but I messed up my shoulder like pretty bad. I didn't go see anybody or whatever. So and I'm still not sure what's going on. Like, this is fresh from today. We went to go work shoulders, and I know my shoulder's been bothering me, but I just kept telling myself, oh, it's just from that.
Mhm.
And I haven't been working on it. I haven't been stretching. I haven't been, lifting. I haven't. So we go to do it today, and I just take 20 pound, just getting started, right? Like, just 20 pounds going up, and my back, like my rotator cuff,
Mhm.
I felt it in there with 20 pounds of weight, and I was like, something's wrong. And then I went down, I was like, maybe it's not. Like, I'm still trying to convince myself, like, nope, you're just as good as you were before. You just have to keep up the time.
Yeah.
I go down to 10 pounds, still there, 5 pounds, still there. And now I have to realize that, I now I have an injury on top of the fact that my brain thinks that I can do everything that I used to do immediately right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it happened the time before that when we took a long time off of the gym. I literally loaded up the squat rack, went down to do a squat, and fucking, like, it didn't tear a muscle, but sprained a muscle in my thigh. And I was like, that's it. I fucking, like, dropped the weights, I had to pull them off, pick everything back up. And I was like, I can't. That was my second squat. Also, I'm not warming up, but so I should do that. But
Yeah, I mean, maybe you start with some body weight exercises.
and I get that, but that's what I'm saying.
Senior
like,
living,
some senior living housing.
kind of
But that's like, that's the point though. Is I know stretching. I know, like, doing body weights. Like, you can do a lot with just your body at home. So for anybody who thinks I have to have a gym, I have to, have all of this equipment, you could do like,
before I even, when I have gotten off of my routine for any length of time, I usually start with
just body weights.
2-3 weeks of just, calisthenics, body weight exercises, just to be able to go touch the weights, because I know as I've gotten older, I do not have the same body that I used to, and it all hurts.
I think you're a little bit past me.
A little bit.
But because, like, I do know that I'm obviously, from back when I was in my peak, it was like 4 or 5 years ago. I never really had a peak in high school.
Yeah, when I really beat up my body growing up, when I was younger, doing
both
physical
of us doing
labor.
Yeah, physical labor will fuck you up, and I know that that's a whole different dilemma of doing physical labor and then trying to get yourself to the gym. That I was doing that, and that was, believe me, when I first started doing that felt impossible. I was like, how am I supposed to be this sore while also being so sore from work?
Yeah.
But
it's that duality thing.
Yeah.
Man. It's like it ends up feeling good.
Yeah.
Right. Like
it doesn't feel
I miss that now.
Yeah, I do too.
And
I really do.
I'm excited to feel that again. I'm getting ready to start up the B.A.D operation again, and I'm ready to feel that. I'm excited about it. I miss it.
The one thing that I missed is me and Cassidy did leg day, and I started off small, and so I didn't do what I did last time. I didn't just load up a squat rack. Just doing body weights and then working with form, with no weights on the bar, and just trying to move myself up with that. And we got done. Cassidy's like, my legs are shaking. I was like, I know, right? And then, the next day, it's like, I'm so sore. The second day, when you go down to take your morning shit, dude, it's like
sitting down. Yeah. When you've got a good leg workout,
dude.
when you have to sit down and get off of the toilet.
But it's the second day. It's the first
always
day,
the second day.
is a fake out. The
second
first
day feels
is
good.
like, Yeah, the
Second
first
day is like, I got a good workout in.
yeah,
That feels good.
yeah,
I can handle that. That
I can
soreness,
handle it.
I
Yeah,
got that.
yeah,
And then it's the second day.
yeah,
You go to sit down on that toilet,
Oh,
and it's
dude.
like, oh my
My
God,
God, yeah, something.
I
What
hurt myself.
I hurt
Yeah.
something, but then
Yeah.
it's funny because then that third day you're like, I could do legs again.
Well, the third day when I'm that sore, I'm
Yeah.
like, I have to hit my legs
That's-
because I
yeah.
stiffen up
Yep,
so bad.
same.
If it's my back
I think
or
that's
my
just
legs,
the goal. Like you
I'm
should
like, I
never
have to do
skip.
this again.
You should never skip leg day.
Yeah.
Legs are like they're this. They remind me of the dark and the light, right? Like I have to go into the darkness for the leg day, and then I get a whole lot of light out of it. I love like, dude, I push myself so hard, when I did, and I'm ready to do it again. But again, I have to start slow. But I would just I'd hit the Stairmaster for a good solid 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then just go and deadlift, and oh, here we go. Oh, sorry, struck my ego a bit there. Yeah, I just
Back to the picture didn't happen.
yeah. Yeah. Forgot where I was.
Stairmaster.
No, yeah, I'm not gonna stroke my ego, but I just remember the feeling of getting through that real everybody talks about leg day like it's a fucking hard thing, and it is if you push yourself through it. And I just remember the great feeling that you have after all of it, and then it just reminds you that second day later where you're like, oh man, I really
I've always enjoyed doing legs like 2, 3, 4 times a week versus just once.
When we got back, it was that second day when you go to sit down and you almost can't. Cassidy was like, oh, my legs are so sore still. How is this? And I was like, oh no, I know, but we're going to do legs today. You can't stop.
Yeah, no, you got to keep them.
And then we just jumped on the bike and just rode for I don't know how long. It was a while.
Yeah.
And then you get back and now your legs are burning again.
Yeah. So all right. So yeah, I mentioned that I'm getting back into going to start the B.A.D operation.
Yeah.
Do you want to maybe fill everyone in on what that is?
Yeah, there's going to be, I need to, by the time this comes out, I'll have a little video together because I was trying to explain it to Nate at the same time. It's not, I'm not going to call it like a workout, program, because it's not. If you want to call it a workout program, it's for your mentality and your physicality.
Lifestyle program.
Yeah. So what it is, it's a day by day thing. We're sitting here, we're talking about
building routines.
Building routines and change. All of that happens day by day. Everybody has 24 hours. It just matters what you do with it. So as we build, as you're building through, all that change and progressing and doing better and reading books, you eventually get to that outcome of not, I'm not going to say greatness, but like you get to a better spot. So when I came up with the B.A.D operation, and eventually we'll talk about, how I came up with it and why, but what it is that day by day lifestyle program.
Yeah.
So day one, you can start with any of the 10 tasks, and then you're locked into that task for the rest of the period of the B.A.D operation.
Yeah. For anybody that's not sure what we're talking about, that's a task is, could be doing a push-up, doing a sit-up, reading a page in a book.
Yep.
They're pretty simple tasks.
Really simple when you're looking at them, on a day-to-day basis. And if you were to just look at it like you're doing one item, or you're doing one single push-up, one single sit-up, it's a little bit more feasible. The B.A.D operation isn't for everybody but it is for people who want to just make that initial start and start to create a routine from there.
Yeah, I mean, it's to help yourself build a routine. Yeah. Build a solid routine, for your daily life.
So you start off, with whatever first task that you want to add. And there's a whole sheet, there's a whole instruction thing that goes along with it. Like I said, we'll have a little descriptional video. I think that would really help.
Get on the website, check it out.
Yeah. So
buy the things.
But say you wanted to add, your very first day, you wanted to add reading a book. Well, why do we have reading a book? Well, we just talked about it. That it's good for you. It can be fictional. It can be non-fictional. I suggest non-fictional just because there is a tremendous amount of information that you think that you would see online. But having a book there focuses in on that information. There's nothing else. There's no ads. There's nothing else to sit there and distract you.
Mm-hmm.
So what you would do is you would mark down on that. I guess I shouldn't. We can, like I said, we'll have a video of it, but
you log your tasks.
Yeah.
You log the tasks that you're completing as you're going through it.
Yeah.
And you're just adding every day.
Yep. So you add one thing every single day, but you continue to do the tasks that you did the day before, and
yes, you're just
and
building
from the past. So
just
you're
building
doing
every day.
everything good that you started from the past,
Mm-hmm.
and you're every single day you add one more, or you add more reps to whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Reps meaning, more push-ups, reps meaning more pages, reps meaning more water, more time in a workout, more time skill building.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that it's not just a workout is because half of the tasks are for you to gain strength.
Mm-hmm.
It's not all half and half, but there's some to build strength,
mm-hmm.
and then there's some to take care of your body naturally, like drinking water. And then there's some that work on your mentality. I put skill building in there, and the reason that I put it in there is because I have 4 guitars hanging up, and I rarely play them. I love playing. It makes me feel good to play them. I'm not very good by any means, and I've been playing since I was a kid. I'm like tremendously bad for, if I were to be like, hey, I've done this job, or I have this amount of experience for 40 years, and then I come in there and I don't know what the hell I'm doing. That's how it is for me with guitar.
Yeah.
The reason that I put skill building in is because it's something that I've always wanted to learn how to do, but I continuously don't put the time into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, it forces you to add, 3 minutes or 6 minutes, wherever you're at on the task sheet. I wanted to force myself to learn how to play guitar. And with that, the only way that you get good at playing guitar is by continuously playing, even for 1 minute out of the day. Experts will even tell you like 5-6 minutes out of the day. It's funny. The last time that we were doing the B.A.D operation before I had failed it, and had to restart, I was getting better every day.
Mm-hmm.
And in our days, I think eventually I had gotten up to like 10 minutes or 5 minutes of skill building. And so just for those 5 minutes, I would do them every single day. Even if I was super tired, it didn't matter. I still grabbed the guitar off the wall. It's part of my task list. It's a promise to myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the B.A.D operation is. You're pushing yourself to, get past each hard day. So I'm sitting there almost in my sleep, playing 5 minutes of guitar. But the next day I have energy, and then I'm playing and I'm like, holy shit, I couldn't play that chord, a month ago or a week ago.
Yeah.
And so that's why the skill building is there, is to force you to have that time, force you to allocate the time
to practice,
which is another big thing with the B.A.D operation.
Yeah.
We've talked about it to where once you get a certain amount of days in, and that certain amount of days can matter to wherever you are on the task sheet,
mm-hmm.
or however, or like you personally. But as you move through that, you can't just shove everything in the middle of the night.
Right.
You can, but you'll be real tired.
Yep.
And we do it in a 24-hour basis.
Yes.
So if you wake up at 6 a.m., you have till, eventually it's midnight to midnight.
Yeah, eventually you're doing a lot of tasks. There's a lot of things, a lot of items to check off on your sheet every day, or to, on your list of things that you're trying to do to complete the operation. But eventually you're, if you're breaking it up throughout your day correctly, or in a way that works for you. For some people, it might be all at once. Maybe somebody does have 2 to 3 hours that they can just knock
off everything off
what
the
they
list.
Want to do. That's fine. But the items are, simple enough in themselves to be able to incorporate throughout the day, no matter what you're doing or where you're at.
Yeah.
So,
and you just get better at doing them too. So like when you're starting, one push-up might seem like a lot. If you continuously add push-ups by the 10th day,
you might start on your knees the first day, and by the end of it, you're doing full form push-ups.
Exactly. Which is, that's the priority of the operation.
Yeah.
I mean, it was built for me to just start with something.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow just start with something else.
Yeah.
And everything in life is better when it compounds towards a positive outcome.
Yeah. Well, I think another thing that, you know, I don't know if everyone knows or not, but as we're showing up to our own life and doing things throughout the day, if we're in that state, you know, I know when I've been struggling with mental health, I know that there's stuff I could or should be doing, and I'm really struggling to accomplish those things. You know, I know it's better for me to eat better and drink water and stuff like that, you know, like, it is. But it's hard to do it. And um, we, I think, get into these slumps because every time we don't do one of the things we know we should do for ourselves or that we tell ourselves we're going to do, we're betraying ourselves. You know, it's
The
you're
biggest
lying to yourself
one
and
of the
betraying
biggest
yourself.
importance is keeping the word to yourself, but it's very hard once
Right.
you've already broken that bond between you and your mind.
Yeah. So I think, you know, when I was getting started on the journey to self-improvement, it became clear that I had to start small because there were so many things that I was not showing up for. I had to start really small. And as you do those simple things, even if it's getting out of bed, like you said, doing one push-up, reading one page, drinking a glass of water, each time you do the thing that you said you were going to do, well, now you're keeping the promise to yourself and building the trust with yourself. Building trust with yourself in that way is also a form of self-love. So you're also improving the way that you see yourself as you do those things. And so I think part of the bad operation that I like is that you're getting yourself in shape, you're getting your mental health right, but you're also building a bond with yourself to show up for yourself every day. And, you know, that improves the self-love that you're going to feel and your self-efficacy because you are affecting the world around you in a positive way when you're taking care of yourself. And so all of those things in life that you're trying to improve, you know, stem from such a simple thing of just, you know, trying to add to, you know, one little positive thing every day is, you know, ends up compounding into a huge thing.
So as you're doing things without a plan, you forget all of the things that you are doing for yourself,
Yeah.
right? And so a big portion of the bad operation is having a notebook that you start with.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is a given with the program is you have to have a journal. You don't have to buy one of ours. They are personalized if you want one.
If you do, we can personalize it for you.
But
good gifts.
journaling for me has been a tremendous part of my routine. I know that I fall off with it, and I know that it's something that I avoid because I have to talk to myself.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't want to talk to myself. Sometimes I'm not happy with how I behaved that day. Sometimes I'm not happy with things that are going on in my life, and
Sometimes
I want to.
Yes, me. Sometimes I just don't want to sit down and have to slow down enough to write anything out.
So, the bad operation forces you to do that too. And what it also does is, when you start your day, you know, you're not touching your notebook, you're not touching your list at all, unless you're looking at what you're going to add that day. So in the morning, you would look at what you're going to add that day. You can check it off, and then you can complete all your tasks.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, or the end of the period where you're done doing your tasks, all your tasks have to be done first. At the end of that day, you grab your notebook and you write what you added. You write, whatever, write the date, you write what you added, and then you write what you completed. And the reason behind that is because it's a reminder to you every single day that even throughout the whole mess of the day, you did something to benefit yourself. So at first it feels like nothing. You get 20, 30, 40, 50 days into it, you're writing out 3 sentences or 3 lists, 3 lines. You're writing out that all of this stuff that you did for yourself that day.
Yeah.
And so it's a constant reminder of how you're pushing yourself every single day. And for everybody who's out there who doesn't, like, one small simple change compounded will make you feel better, even though right now it might not feel like
Absolutely.
anything will make you feel better.
Absolutely.
So as you do that, you know, you get through, you'll write down like what you've completed that day, and then you just talk to yourself or
Yeah.
talk to whoever, talk to God, talk to the universe, talk to yourself. Take everything that's going on inside your mind and dump it onto that paper. And then I challenge you, you don't have to, I challenge you after that, reread it. See if anything that you wrote made sense. A lot for me is I'll dump onto a paper and I have several notebooks. I'll dump into a paper and where it's like a bunch of shitty thoughts or it's a bunch of like things that I did that day and then I have a separate notebook for me that I, you know, write a letter to myself. And I think that helps. But when I have the dump, you know, notebook where I write down all the bullshit, I go back through and read it, and 90% of it is a false reality.
Yeah.
90% of it doesn't actually exist. 90% of my worries aren't that big, but putting your putting pen to paper makes it real.
Yeah.
It makes it
Absolutely.
back into your existence.
Yep.
And yeah.
And it also helps to unclutter your mind. You know, it really does help get it out and out of, you know, when I'm overwhelmed, I have a lot going on in my mind, and journaling, writing, it like gets it somewhere where it feels like it's organized and I don't have to hold it in my mind anymore. You know, I can actually see it somewhere, kind of like, you know, what you were saying. And I used to do the same thing, still do, where I have a notebook that I put down the challenges and my frustrations and just dump. And the next one I use to write myself advice, like I'm writing, you know, as if myself, you know, I'm a friend or my kid, you know, the type of advice I'd give. And it's amazing when you actually get through it, when you see like I'm a very much a person that can give really good advice, and I have a hard time taking my own advice. But when you see it on paper, especially days on end, you really get a sense for like how far away from or close to the places in life that you want to be. Because eventually you see a pattern and a routine of what you're participating in that either makes you feel good or doesn't. And I think that also helps provide direction for somebody when they see, you know, it ends up being a thing where you're like, man, I'm seeing this over and over and over. Like either I need to do something about this or, you know, change this in some way. And I think it's a great way to track your progression through any situation or life in general. You
Yeah.
know?
So for anybody who's wanting to, you know, try out the B.A.D operation, there's a header right up at the top of the page. There's a button, you know, you can go to what is and how to. You know, it's not something that we monetize at all. It's all free. There's one thing that you might need equipment for, which is just a pull up. You know, you could also just stop by a park and go do your pull ups if you know those are added to your tasks yet. Yeah, I mean, there's an easy download for it, and
Yeah, I mean, you can supplement if you're unable to do anything. You can supplement with
yeah,
something equal.
and
Um,
we have like as you're moving through it, like I said, though there will be a video by the time this comes out. It's something that I've definitely wanted to do and needed to get done because I do want to explain it well enough so where everybody is challenging themselves the right way and together.
Yep.
It's another thing that we want to make sure is that, or not want to make sure, but we hope is that people start using this as like a community thing to do together. You can, you know, I started off and I made it all by myself and I was completely alone and I felt alone the entire time I was coming up with it. But
mhm.
having that community and stuff is something that's important too if you have the ability. You know,
Yeah.
your family, it's made for everybody.
Absolutely.
Through anything that's going on in your life. You know, and it's unfortunate and like if you the biggest thing that I want people to understand is if you fail your tasks or you don't do one of your tasks or you forget to write, it's just a restart. That's it. Everything happens in life, and sometimes we have to go back to the beginning and start over again. And it teaches you that aspect too. I have not completed it, and I you know I want to, and I feel as if this time that I'm in it, I'm going to. I've got 60 pounds to lose, and I'm not saying that the B.A.D operation will get me there. But with that, and other activities that I compound with it should put me into to hit that goalpost. I think that a lot of people are afraid that if you have to restart, it's almost scarier than continuing on with the negative things you're doing because you're comfortable in the negative aspect.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you're logging what you're doing, you're obviously logging what you're unable to do if you fail to keep up the routine.
Yeah.
So, I think part of the journaling and other things that you're doing are helping you physically, but they're helping you mentally. And
One
you
of
know,
my favorite quotes that kind of ties into that is, and I sent it to you guys, and if I botch this, I'm sorry, but it was when Bob Marley got shot, and the next day he went up and played the concert, and they asked him, "You were just shot. Why'd you do it?" And he said, "The people who are making this world evil, or the evil people in this world aren't taking a day off. How can I?
mm,
Or why should I?" Something along that line. And so each day that you're negative, um, each day that your negative actions push forward, they're compounding and they're fighting back against your positive actions.
mm,
And so all you have to do is just keep moving that forward, lose battles, win battles, lose battles, but in the end, you win the war. You just have to keep pushing
yeah,
to get there
yeah. I mean,
and
I think
keep those routines up.
yeah, I think sometimes it's easy to not do what you know you should do one day, and then the next day you wake up and you beat up on yourself for not doing what you knew you should have.
Yeah.
And um,
I, I,
it's a way to be able to wake up every day and feel like you at least did something for yourself
Yeah.
and did something to help yourself, and that is a great feeling.
yeah. And I don't know if, it's something that I don't know if it's something that we've perfected. There's still things that I do in the bad operation that I wonder if I should have even put in there. And I don't know if I've gotten long enough to understand the entire aspect of it. I want, this is just an experiment for us, and it's an experiment for anybody who tries it.
An experiment in self-improvement.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, we're always trying to find better things to help ourselves. I'm not always following them. Being here open and vulnerable is hard to even try to express that what I'm like. I'm not perfect by any means, and I mess up a lot. And I think this podcast, this business is for me just as much as it is for everybody else. And I really think that that's going to benefit me. Um, uh, yeah, I really think that that's going to benefit me
Mhm.
to doing that. So I
As it
want,
should.
yeah. So we want your feedback when it comes to it. We'll have Facebook, we'll have all of the social media accounts to see how everybody's doing with bad operation and what it is to make the best action a distraction.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, at some point we'll have some events or, retreats where we can get a larger number of people together to maybe go
Yeah,
through some of those experiences
yeah,
and talk about those.
I think everybody needs to kind of know that that our goal is not just to sell merch, and our goal is not just to do that. Our goal is to have events where we're bringing people out and keeping them giving them that distraction,
Yep.
whether it's going to the rock climbing gym and being able to take a class who's never been rock climbing, uh and maybe even if we hit one person, of that being a new outlet for them. Well, eventually we'll have professionals of wherever physical or mental activity that we're doing can express that they went through a hard time and this is how it helped them. We
We'd like to facilitate, and host training and workshops for people to be able to learn new tasks.
Yeah.
Whether it's interpersonal work, maybe learning some things that would help, such as journaling or anything like that, mental health related, all the way to physical activities like rock climbing.
group. I mean, group workouts, jujitsu, like they're like hiking, archery, hunting, anything that could be a healthy distraction that helps you find some discipline and find a routine in your life and push through that.
And we're open to it.
Yeah, I think you know, you're gonna see us grow as much as we're gonna be sitting here hoping that everybody else is kind of growing. We're a part of the community. We're a part of getting better just as much as everybody else. We're just sitting here in front of a camera doing it.
Yep.
So yeah, yeah, I mean, I'm happy for everybody to be listening. It's definitely going to be a weird, clunky thing going through. I'm happy that we're starting this.
Yeah, it's going to be a great adventure.
Yeah, I'm really stoked about all this entire thing starting.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
it's been a long time coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
So, you want to sign off? Should we just be good?
Everyone.
No, I just for the people who are already taking care of themselves, if you pick up anything from us, great. If you guys have anything that
yeah, I don't want anybody to think that I'm preaching
yeah.
or telling anybody how to do anything. I am not an expert on any of this. I'm
neither am I.
literally just sharing my personal experience of things that I've gone through and learned, and that's what's helped me in my life get through hard times. And I want to be able to, impact other people and help them if I can, get through those things. Definitely not a professional in any of these arenas. I'm just trying to pass on what I've learned, and hopefully it can help somebody. I know you want to do the same. And if we can impact, like you said, one person, great. If it can be 10 or 100 people, that's even better.
I started this, obviously for myself. But when my initial thought when I started this was, how can I help myself? What can I do right now to help myself? My second thought was, can I help anybody else along the way? I've lost a lot of people. It's hard for me not to get just like already teary-eyed just thinking about it. There's things that I haven't worked out with those relationships that I've lost. There's people that I've lost. And I just want to be able to help people. And like you said, if I can get one person out of bed, that was my, probably my third thought. If I can get one person to do what I just did, then maybe I can, lend out a hand.
Yeah.
And I think that that's our biggest goal, is just trying to help people. And you're going to see us help ourselves along the way. And hopefully that might inspire somebody to do the same. Even if and again, I have no fucking idea what I'm doing here. But I'm going to find out along the way.
Yeah, man. I think that's why you see people doing that kind of thing out there, trying to relate to others and share their experience of it. Is because when you do get through something like that, and it continues to level up and grow on you. So there's always a reason to keep improving. But when you do get through a stage to when you look around and you feel like you've gotten somewhere or gotten past something, you realize how the steps to do that made so much sense. And, it connects the dots for you that it was easier than you thought it might have been once you're through it.
Yeah, it's the forest through the trees, and you really don't see it when you're in it. It's if there's one piece of advice that I could give, it's just to keep going always. Keep taking that step, even if you miss a day in between. Take a step the next day.
Yep.
If you keep going, eventually you realize how worth it was. And I think that for anybody out there who is on a good path, continue it, keep it up. For anybody who isn't, we need you. Everybody needs you around, and I think that you're gonna, if you can take one step forward into a positive light, whatever that means for you, whatever simple small distraction that you can activate, let it help you, and let it improve your life, and let it keep you around. Let it keep you here.
Yes, sir.